The mysterious wreckage. The desert stretched for miles, endless waves of sand shifting under the hot sun. Nothing lived here, nothing moved. The air was dry, and the silence was heavy. But deep in the heart of this wasteland, something unnatural lay buried beneath the sand. A massive alien warship, forgotten by time. For centuries, it had been hidden, lost to history. The ship's metal was dark and cracked, its surface covered in deep scars. The crash had destroyed its engines, leaving it helpless. No one on Earth knew where it had come from or who had built it. But now, everything was about to change. A strange discovery. It all started with a small tremor. A group of geologists studying the desert noticed strange energy readings coming from beneath the sand. Their equipment flickered, their compasses spun wildly. Something powerful was buried here. The government sent a secret research team to investigate. Soldiers, scientists, and engineers arrived, setting up camp around the wreck. They carefully dug away the sand, revealing the monstrous shape of the ship. It was not human-made. The metal was smoother than anything humans had ever built. Strange symbols, glowing faintly, ran across the surface. The ship was huge, stretching almost a mile long. The sight of it made even the bravest soldiers feel small. No one knew how long it had been here, but one thing was certain: it was not dead. A silent warning. As the scientists studied the ship, they found something disturbing. The metal was warm, pulsing slightly, as if the ship was still alive. Dr. Emily Carter, the lead scientist, ran her fingers across the strange symbols. "This technology is beyond anything we've ever seen," she whispered, "and it's not completely inactive." The team set up scanners, trying to understand the ship's structure. But something strange happened. At exactly midnight, the ship emitted a deep hum. The ground trembled slightly. Energy readings spiked, flashing red on the monitors. The ship was waking up. A forgotten signal. Far above Earth, in the cold depths of space, something heard the signal. A distant empire, once thought lost, had been waiting. The moment the ship activated, deep within a hidden command center light years away, an alert blared. A holographic screen flickered to life, displaying a symbol, a mark of the empire. A tall figure, clad in dark armor, stepped forward. His yellow eyes narrowed as he read the message. "The warship has been found," he growled. His voice was cold, filled with ancient hatred. An officer beside him hesitated. "Shall we send a scout?" "No," the commander said, his jaw tightening. "Send the fleet. That ship belongs to us, and we will take it back." The race begins. Back on Earth, the scientists and soldiers had no idea what they had just done. They didn't know that the ship had called its masters. They didn't know that across the galaxy, an alien fleet was already on its way. They only knew one thing: the ship was not just wreckage. It was a warning. And soon, the true owners would arrive to reclaim what was theirs. The incoming threat. The desert night was silent, but deep inside the alien wreck, something had changed. Strange symbols flickered to life along the ship's surface. The hum of energy, once faint, grew louder. The scientists and soldiers watching the ship exchanged uneasy glances. Dr. Emily Carter stood frozen, staring at her equipment. "The energy readings are increasing. This isn't natural." Colonel James Walker, the military leader in charge, frowned. "Shut it down." "We can't," Emily said. "It's not coming from us. It's coming from inside the ship." And then the ground shook. Far beyond the stars, light years away, in the heart of the Celery Empire, alarms blared across the command bridge of a massive warship. The Supreme Commander Vorin watched as the signal flashed on his holographic display. His golden eyes narrowed. "The lost warship," he muttered. His claws tightened into a fist. For over a century, their greatest weapon had been missing. Left behind on a primitive planet after a failed invasion. They had believed it was lost forever. But now, against all odds, it had activated. Vorin turned to his officers. "We leave at once. Ready the fleet. That ship belongs to us." The massive alien war fleet, hidden deep in the void, began to move. Engines roared to life. Weapons systems powered up. Within moments, they jumped into hyperspace, heading straight for Earth. Earth's growing fear. Back on Earth, the research team struggled to understand what was happening. The ship's systems were coming online at an alarming rate. Inside, doors unlocked, hidden compartments opened, and strange glyphs glowed brighter. The ship was reactivating itself. Soldiers stood at the ready, weapons aimed. But against something not of this world, what good would guns do? "This thing isn't just a wreck," one scientist whispered. "It's alive." And then the radio crackled. "Commander," a technician called out, his voice shaking. "We just picked up something huge moving toward Earth." Walker grabbed the radio. "What do you mean?" The technician swallowed. "Multiple unidentified objects, moving at impossible speeds, and they're heading straight for us. A warship no longer alone. High above the Earth, in the cold darkness of space, the stars twisted and stretched. Then, one by one, massive warships emerged from hyperspace. Their dark metal hulls gleamed under the distant sun. Their weapons glowed with deadly energy. The auxiliary empire had arrived. On the lead ship, Commander Vorin stared down at the blue planet below. He pointed toward the surface, toward his lost warship. "Prepare the assault," he ordered. "Take back what is ours. And if the humans resist, destroy them all." The warship awakens. The desert air crackled with unseen energy. The alien wreckage, once lifeless and broken, began to hum with power. Its strange metallic surface pulsed like a living thing, glowing with symbols no human could understand. Inside the research station, alarms blared. Scientists scrambled to analyze the readings, but the numbers made no sense. The ship wasn't just activating, it was rebuilding itself. Dr. Emily Carter's hands trembled as she stared at the monitors. "It's repairing its own systems. But how?" Colonel Walker stood behind her, jaw tight. "I don't care how. I need to know if we can stop it." Emily hesitated. Then the answer came. "We can't." A sudden attack. Before Walker could respond, a loud screeching noise filled the air. It wasn't human. It wasn't mechanical. It was something alien. The ship's outer plating shifted. Hidden compartments hissed open. And then, something moved. From deep inside the wreck, a dark, insect-like machine emerged. It was tall, its body sleek and unnatural, with glowing blue eyes and razor-sharp limbs. A soldier raised his rifle. "What the hell is that?" The machine lunged. A flash of metal. A scream. Blood hit the sand. The first man fell, his body cut in half before he could fire a shot. The research station erupted in chaos. Soldiers opened fire, bullets sparking uselessly against the alien machine's armored shell. It moved with inhuman speed, cutting through defenses like paper. More hatches burst open. More machines crawled out, their eyes glowing with an eerie blue light. The warship wasn't just waking up. It was defending itself. A desperate escape. "Fall back," Walker shouted, grabbing Emily and pulling her toward the exit. But the machines were everywhere, hunting, tearing, killing. Emily ran, her breath ragged, as the facility exploded behind her. The warship's defensive systems had activated. Any human still inside was now trapped with the machines. Walker and a handful of survivors reached the armored vehicles. They sped away just as the ship's massive main cannon began to glow. And then it fired. A blinding beam of energy shot into the sky, tearing through clouds and sending shockwaves across the desert. The signal is heard. High above, in the cold void of space, the auxiliary fleet watched. Commander Vorin's lips curled into a sharp smile. "It's ready." He turned to his officers. "Prepare for landing. The humans have woken the beast. Now we reclaim it." Below, on Earth, Emily and Walker looked back at the ship, their faces pale with fear. The warship was no longer abandoned. And the real war was about to begin. The alien fleet arrives. The desert burned under the eerie glow of the activated warship. Its towering frame, once buried beneath the sands, now stood defiant against the night sky. Glowing alien symbols pulsed along its surface, and its main cannon still smoked from its first test fire. Colonel James Walker and Dr. Emily Carter stood atop a distant ridge, watching in silent horror. The ship wasn't just waking up, it was preparing for war. Then the radios crackled to life. Unidentified objects detected in high orbit. A panicked voice from the military base called. "I repeat, we have incoming." Walker's blood ran cold. He turned to Emily. "They're here." The shadows in the sky. Above Earth, the stars rippled and shifted as enormous black shapes emerged from hyperspace. The Xilari war fleet had arrived. Dozens of massive warships loomed over the planet, their jagged obsidian hulls reflecting Earth's moonlight. Each vessel bristled with strange, menacing weapons. Inside the lead battleship, Commander Vorin stood on the bridge, his golden eyes gleaming with anticipation. "There it is," he murmured, gazing down at the warship on the surface. After over a century, their greatest weapon was within reach once more. He turned to his officers. "Begin the assault. The humans have had their fun. Now we take back what is ours." Earth responds. Alarms screamed across Earth's military installations. Satellites picked up the alien fleet instantly, and within minutes, fighter jets and missile defenses were scrambled. The President of the United States, along with leaders from other nations, received the urgent message. Hostile alien fleet detected. Their target appears to be the recently discovered wreck. Initiating global defense protocols. Walker grabbed his radio. "We need air support now." "We're sending everything we have," the base commander replied. "But Colonel, these things are massive. We don't know if we can stop them." Walker clenched his fists. He already knew the truth. Earth's forces were outgunned. The first strike. Above the desert, the first wave of alien dropships descended, piercing through Earth's skies like falling meteors. Their sleek black hulls gleamed in the firelight below. And then, they opened fire. Blinding blue energy beams rained down from the sky, turning sand into molten glass. Explosions ripped through military vehicles. Soldiers screamed as entire squads were vaporized in an instant. Walker and Emily barely had time to duck as a shockwave slammed into them, throwing them to the ground. The attack had begun. A race against time. Emily coughed, trying to push herself up. We can't stop them," she gasped. Walker wiped the blood from his forehead, eyes burning with determination. "No," he said, "but maybe we can make sure they don't get what they came for." He turned to the wrecked warship, still pulsing with power. "If we can get inside that thing," he said, "maybe we can turn it against them." Emily's eyes widened. "You want to take control of an alien warship? Got a better idea." Walker shot back. Emily hesitated. Then she looked at the Xilari fleet above them, at the destruction raining down, and she knew. They had no choice. "Let's do it," she said. Together, they sprinted toward the warship as the battle raged around them. The Xilari's mistake. Inside his flagship, Commander Vorin watched the humans resist. Their primitive weapons barely scratched his fleet. Pathetic, he thought. They would fall soon enough. But what Vorin did not realize, what no Xilari had expected, was that humans were more dangerous than they seemed. Because they were about to do something unthinkable. They were going to steal his own warship. Humanity's desperate counterattack. Bullets and energy beams cut through the air as Colonel James Walker and Dr. Emily Carter sprinted toward the warship. The battlefield was a nightmare. Soldiers were being cut down by alien forces, tanks exploded under the relentless assault, and the sky itself burned as Earth's fighter jets clashed with the invaders. But Walker had only one goal: reach the warship before the Xilari do. Behind them, a squad of soldiers followed, covering their advance. They knew their chances were slim, but if they could take control of the warship, they might just turn the tide. The alien onslaught. Above, the auxiliary warships moved into position. They had broken through Earth's defenses with terrifying ease. Their flagship hovered directly above the wreck, preparing to land. Inside, Commander Vorin grinned. "The humans fight well," he admitted, "but they do not understand what they are up against." He turned to his officers. "Send the ground troops. Crush their resistance." At his command, thousands of auxiliary shock troopers descended from the sky, landing in sleek pods that slammed into the battlefield. As the hatches hissed open, towering, armored warriors stepped out, their eyes glowing with hunger for war. The true invasion had begun. A desperate gamble. Walker and his team reached the base of the warship just as the ground shook. The auxiliary had landed. Emily was already at the ship's control panel, her fingers moving across the strange, glowing symbols. "I can't read this," she shouted. Walker turned to her. "We don't need to understand it. We just need to make it work." One of the engineers, a young hacker named Davis, pushed past them. "Let me try." He pulled out a modified military hacking device and connected it to the warship's system. The screen flickered. Strange alien code scrolled across it. Davis' fingers flew. "Come on, come on." A loud beep echoed through the ship. Then, a low, mechanical voice spoke in an unknown language. The warship shuddered. The ground trembled beneath them. The systems were coming online. "The enemy closes in." Just as the warship lit up, the auxiliary arrived. A squad of their elite soldiers stormed the entrance, their weapons humming with deadly energy. Walker spun around and opened fire. His team followed, filling the air with bullets and plasma rounds. The auxiliary returned fire, their advanced weapons cutting through the defenses. Davis screamed, "I need more time." Emily grabbed a fallen soldier's rifle and fired desperately, barely holding the enemy back. "We don't have time." One of the auxiliary leaped forward, its blade gleaming. Boom! A massive energy cannon fired from the warship, vaporizing the auxiliary troops in an instant. Walker's eyes widened. The ship had fired on its own. Davis gasped. I think we just activated the weapons." Walker's lips curled into a grim smile. "Then let's turn this thing into a war machine." The warship joins the battle. As the auxiliary fleet closed in, the abandoned warship fully awakened. Its massive thrusters ignited, shaking the earth beneath it. The alien symbols flashed brightly, and energy cannons along its sides rotated into position. Above, Commander Vorin's smug expression turned to shock. "No," he growled. "They can't control it. It's ours." But he was wrong. Walker gripped the control panel and barked into the radio. "This is Colonel Walker to all surviving forces. Get clear of the wreck. We are taking off." Emily and Davis worked frantically, adjusting the ship's navigation controls. The ancient war machine rumbled as it began to lift off, its massive cannons now fully operational. Then, the first shot fired. A blinding beam of energy tore through the sky, striking one of the auxiliary warships and ripping it apart in an instant. The battle turns. The alien invaders panicked. The auxiliary troops on the ground looked up in horror as the very ship they had come to reclaim turned against them. Walker gritted his teeth. "Let's see how they like it when the odds aren't in their favor." The warship's engines roared, lifting it completely into the sky. It hovered above the battlefield, its cannons glowing with deadly energy. Vorin's fleet hesitated. They had never expected the humans to steal their own technology. But the humans weren't just using it. They were winning with it. The final battle for the ship. The alien warship now hovered above the battlefield, its massive frame casting a dark shadow over the desert. Its cannons glowed, fully charged and ready. Colonel Walker stood at the ship's command console, gripping the edges tightly as the deck rumbled beneath his boots. The control systems were still unstable, flickering between alien symbols and corrupted human code. "We don't have full control yet," Emily warned. "The weapons are active, but if we push it too hard—" "We don't have a choice," Walker interrupted, watching the enemy fleet repositioning above them. The Xilari weren't retreating. They were regrouping. Above, on his flagship, Commander Voron's rage boiled over. "They think they can use our own technology against us." His fists clenched. "Destroy that ship. Wipe them from existence." His second-in-command hesitated. "But Commander, that warship—" "Fire. A deadly storm." In an instant, the Xilari fleet unleashed hell. Beams of blue plasma rained down from the sky, streaking toward the captured warship. Walker barely had time to react. "Brace for impact." The first blast struck, sending a shockwave through the ship. Sparks exploded from the walls. Consoles flickered and died, and the entire structure lurched sideways. Emily screamed as she was thrown against the console. "Shields are failing." Walker growled. "No, not like this." He slammed his fist on the panel. "Come on, you piece of alien junk. Fight back." The warship strikes back. As if answering his command, the ship's defense systems fully activated. Turrets along the hull swiveled and locked on to the Xilari warships above. And then, it fired. A massive energy beam erupted from the warship's main cannon, slicing through the night sky like a sword of light. The first Xilari warship exploded on impact. A second one tried to evade, but a secondary blast tore straight through its hull. The sky was suddenly filled with debris and fire. The battle on the ground. The Xilari ground troops, once so confident, now stood frozen as their own fleet burned above them. One alien soldier turned to his commander. "Sir, should we fall back?" The Xilari leader's mandibles twitched in frustration. They were losing. And then, the warship turned its cannons on them. Walker didn't hesitate. "Target the Xilari ground forces. Fire at will." The ship's lower turrets roared to life, unleashing devastating energy blasts onto the battlefield below. Xilari tanks were obliterated, their infantry scattered in panic. It was a massacre. Commander Voron's last stand. On the Xilari flagship, Commander Voron's fury burned hotter than any plasma weapon. "This is impossible," he seethed. "We are the conquerors, the superior race. The humans are nothing." But then, his ship shook violently. Warning sirens blared. One of the captured warship's energy blasts had locked onto them. A desperate officer turned to him. "Commander, we need to retreat." Voron's claws dug into his armrest. He had never run from battle before. He was Xilari, a leader of warriors. But the battle was already lost. Voron snarled. "Fall back. Victory. At a cost." As the last of the Xilari fleet vanished into hyperspace, a silence fell over the battlefield. Walker exhaled, his hands trembling. They had won. Emily collapsed against the console, exhausted. "We actually did it." The remaining human forces cheered, their shouts echoing across the desert. But as Walker looked around, he saw the cost of their victory. The battlefield was littered with burning wreckage. The ground was scorched. Hundreds of soldiers had fallen. Earth had survived. But at what price? And then, something beeped on the console. Emily's eyes widened as she read the data. "Walker, the ship's systems, they're still activating." Walker turned to the massive alien war machine, its core humming with renewed energy. They had won this battle. But had they awakened something even worse? Victory, but at what cost? The battlefield was silent. Smoke still rose from the wreckage, and the last echoes of war faded into the night. The once invincible Xilari fleet had fled, leaving behind the ruins of their failed invasion. On the bridge of the captured alien warship, Colonel Walker exhaled, his body heavy with exhaustion. His hands, still gripping the console, trembled slightly. "We did it," Emily whispered, barely believing her own words. "They're gone." Davis, the young hacker, let out a nervous laugh. And we're still alive. That's new. The remaining soldiers on board cheered, celebrating their impossible victory. Against overwhelming odds, against an enemy far more advanced, humanity had fought back and won. But then, the ship's core pulsed, and the celebration stopped. The ship's final secret. The warship, though now under human control, was still an alien creation. Emily's screen flashed red. Walker," she said, her voice filled with dread. "There's something happening inside the ship." Walker turned sharply. "What now?" Emily pointed to the holographic display. "It's still activating. We might have stopped the auxiliary, but the ship, it has a failsafe." Walker's stomach twisted. What kind of failsafe? Emily swallowed hard. A self-destruct. A race against time. Alarms blared throughout the ship. Red warning lights flashed across the control panels. The alien text on the screen rapidly changed, counting down in an unknown language. Davis's eyes widened. "Tell me that doesn't mean what I think it means." Emily's fingers flew across the console. "It does. The ship is rigged to self-destruct if captured. It's going to wipe itself out, and everything around it." Walker turned to the window, looking out at the battlefield. The warship was still hovering over the desert. If it detonated here, the explosion would be catastrophic. Tens of thousands could die. "We need to get it away from Earth," Walker said. "Now." A dangerous decision. Emily's voice was frantic. "We don't have control of the engines. It's locked into a countdown." Walker's mind raced. There had to be a way, some way, to move this thing before it destroyed half the planet. Then he looked at the weapon systems. A desperate idea formed. "Davis, can you reroute the power from the main cannon into the engines?" Walker asked. Davis blinked. "What? That's insane. The cannon's power output is off the charts. It could overload the thrusters and—" Walker grabbed him by the shoulders. "That's exactly what we need. We overload the engines, force them to fire one last time, and launch this thing into space." Emily's eyes widened. That might actually work." Davis groaned. "Or it might kill us all." "Not if we time it right," Walker said. "We're out of options." Davis sighed. "All right, but if we survive this, I'm taking a vacation." The final flight. The ship shuddered violently as Davis worked, diverting every ounce of power into the engines. Sparks flew as the overloaded thrusters prepared for one last launch. 30 seconds until detonation," Emily shouted. Walker strapped himself in. "Hold on." With a final press of a button, the warship roared to life. The thrusters ignited, sending a massive shockwave across the battlefield. The ground split open beneath them as the ancient war machine tore itself free from gravity. Soldiers on the ground watched in stunned silence as the colossal alien warship shot into the sky, accelerating at impossible speed. The end of the warship. Walker gritted his teeth as the ship shook violently, rising higher and higher. "Come on. Come on." Then, the engines gave out. The warship had reached the edge of space, far beyond Earth's orbit. The countdown reached 0. And then, it exploded. A brilliant flash of white-hot energy tore through the void, sending a ripple across the heavens. The shockwave stretched for miles, but Earth remained untouched. The warship was gone. Silence followed. Then, a single voice crackled through the radio. "This is command. We're reading an all clear." The war was over. A new future